So in this video, I'm going to talk about improvising a shade with stuff I had around the house already. I had some PVC and some eye bolts and some string. It was not optimal for any of that. And I also have this from the Purple Leaf people. And so I started measuring and determined it was a little bit too wide, and I got it rigged up so that it kind of worked, but I still had needed to do some work with respect to making it a little more narrow. And so I tried a few little things, and I got various choices for connecting the shade to the PVC pipe, and I decided to go with the pop rivet situation. And then I had to extend the PVC. So that's basically what I'm going to show here. If you have more time, you can watch the extra details. Yeah, so I actually had this PVC in the garage for a long time, and I didn't have to go to the hardware store at all for this project, which I'm kind of proud of, because usually you have to go twice or three times. So this is shorter. It's like 9 feet 5, and I needed 10 feet 5, but it's what I have. And then I looked in my junk and I found these eye bolts, but they were the wrong threads. So I thought, well, maybe I can just thread over them. And I didn't know if this would work, but I think I've got the right size here. I'm not sure, I can barely read that, but I got the wing nut on there to say that this is definitely the one I want. So I got to find the other side of this. And I think this is the right one, M6 1.0. So I got them all threaded, all 4 of the eye bolts. I got them threaded, and here I test it with the wing nut just to make sure it works, and it's the right threads, and it seems to be working okay. So I got them on there with some lock washers, and so I'm ready to replace some bolts. So I'm going to take out some bolts from the little bracket that holds the roof down. And on the end, I'm not sure where I want to put the last one. I kind of wanted to put it where that roof rafter beam comes down, but I think I'm going to just go with this one since it's less critical to the structure of the deck. I'm not sure I want to pull out that one that holds the beam. So anyway, get these eye bolts stuck in here. This is the long one, the one that's going to hold all 3 strings, and put that into the threads, and then tighten down the wing nut to hold the roof bracket in place and keep the integrity of that. Here's the next one, and the next one. So that's the middle one. I decided to go with 3 strings instead of 2. I think you might be able to go with 2, but it just seemed like a long time. And this is tightening it down. I'm trying to get it so it's tight and vertical at the same time. When I mean vertical, I mean the eyeball vertical. So here they are, 1, 2, 3, and then the 4th one where all the strings will come down. So this is the string I got. I happen to have this already. It's kind of thin for this job, but it's strong. It's nylon. And I can always change it out pretty easily later on. So I figured I'd use this and just see, if it worked. I wasn't even sure if this was going to work at all. So it works with this string, as you saw in the intro. So I taped it down to the deck. Then I strung it out this far to decide how long, and I cut it to length. And then I strung it through here, and we're going to find out shortly that this was a bad idea. And so here I'm putting up the second one, 2 out of 3. And here's where I realize, oops. So you got to pull that back out. If you do it the way I'm doing it here, I just flip that over and then push it through. too complicated, but seems to work. Yeah, sorry for the kind of repetitive nature of this, but you decided to watch the details, so yeah. So pull this one over and cut it to length. And then the last one. I put those breaks in the eye bolts up so that the string wouldn't get caught in there. And, figured that probably was a good idea. So threading through again, finishing that out. I got them all ready to go. Now it's time for the fabric, and there's a long and a short. Based on the directions. I don't know how long and how short, or what the length of each of these is, but I laid out the fabric, and this is 2 thicknesses, and it's pretty long because it's a 24 by 12 gazebo. And the first one, the short one, measures like 7 feet each, and then this is the long one, which is I'm going to need because that 7'8" is not long enough. And this one comes out to be a little bit too long. It's almost 11 feet. It's 10 foot 11 inches or so. And I only need like 10 and a half or so. So I'm going to need to improvise. And we kind of saw that in the intro. So I clicked all these up. And very simple to do this. And you put it between the lines. But unfortunately, I got to undo it. Just because you got to... You can't put them up before. You got to put the fabric in between. Just something I learned. Of course, consequences are minimal, as you see. All right, it's time to put the pole in there and see how this works. So what I'm going to do is slip this in here and temporarily tape it and roll it up and see how it works. But one of the things I noticed is, and we talked about before, is that it's about 6.5, 7 inches too wide. And so I'm going to have to fold it. So what I didn't show that, but I centered it, and then I'm taping this, the shade to the bar on the bottom, temporarily, just to see if it works, just to give it a once over. And so I got it taped every 18 or 24 inches or whatever, and just to see if it works. And I'll roll it up, and it looks like it's going to work. So I'm going to work on some more permanent things. First of all, I'm going to take out a screw, and then I'm going to affix these ends, both sides, so that it doesn't slide. There's no reason for it to slide, since we got the roll up. And in order to put a hole in it, I'm going to use this soldering iron. I keep an old soldering iron around for these such things. And on this side, I'm going to fold it with the grommet against the framing. On the other side, I'll fold it the other way so that it gets a little bit more of the slack out. So I can cover those 6.5, 7 inches of extra material. So put a hole in it so that I can push the screw through, or the bolt through. So I pulled the bolt out. I got a washer on there. And when I try to screw it in here, it's not long enough to catch the threads, as I find out here. So I went and searched my garage, and I found a longer one, slightly longer one. So I must have saved this from when I originally built the gazebo. And this one goes through and catches the threads on the other side. So that works. So I'm going to have this right end affixed and tighten it down here. And it twists when you try to tighten it down, so you have to kind of fiddle around with counter twist it and get that set up. And here's the other end. And you'll see I fold it just a little bit differently. Didn't really realize at the time that I was folding it differently. I just realized that there was slack that I needed to take care of, and so I fold it with the washer, or so the grommet on the outside here where you can see it. So I run the soldering iron through there to get a hole for my bolt. And I do have a second longer bolt that I found. And get this set up so that both the left and the right sides are fixed. And tighten it down with the same process of the other side. And then one of the things that I was thinking about at the time is sewing these flaps down. But I thought, well, first let's just staple them and see how that looks. These staples ended up coming out. I don't think I had them in there very good. But I wanted to see if it rolled up kind of more nicely and not so floppy. As it turns out, because the pole was not extended to the end, it kind of flops on the end, which it would be fine to leave it like that. But I thought, well, I'll just extend the pole. It wasn't too difficult to do. And if you're not interested, first let me talk about this. This is affixing the shade to the pole, which I wasn't going to do because I wanted to take it in the house and sew those flaps on the sides. But I decided, no, I'll live with the flaps not being sewn down, and I'll affix it to this pole. I was afraid this tape would come off, and then I would be a pain in the neck. So I thought, well, let me get this affixed. So I decided to go with melting through both the shade and the pole, and then sticking a pop rivet in there. So this turned out, it worked fine. I only put one on this side, and we'll see shortly I put one on the other side. And at this moment, I hadn't really decided if I was going to extend the pole or not. I do end up extending it. But here's the pop rivet on the other side. So I measured the width, and I actually added about an inch on each side. So this pole is going to be wider by about 2 inches than the space between the two uprights. And in order to add these, I needed a piece of wood that's about 1 1/8 inch. So I cut that square and 1 1/8 inch, and I'm just going to connect it with some drywall screws. I countersunk the where the screw is going to go through, and I put one screw on each side. So for each extension, there's going to be 2 in the extension piece and 2 in the existing pole. And as it turns out, having it wider than the space between the two uprights was not a good idea. I thought it would stay inside if the wind blew a little bit, but when the wind blows, even the smallest amount, it gets sideways a little bit, enough to go through, and then it clangs when the wind blows. And I thought, I don't know about that. I think I'm going to make these narrower. So I haven't done that yet, but I think what I'm going to do is pull these off and cut them down so that it's narrower than the opening between the two uprights, and then it won't make as much noise when the wind blows. I think I am going to leave the extensions though, not quite as long, because right now, like I said, I've got it slid so it looks like it's narrower than the opening between the two uprights, but it's not. It's actually a little bit longer. When it hangs, it hits the edges. So it does roll up nicely though. It it rolls nicely. So here I've got the cleat in the wrong place. There was a hole there already in the upright, so I put it there. But really, it needs to be up here. And if the shade is up high enough, you've got plenty of rope. But I didn't cut it long enough to. And I'm talking about moving that eye bolt over there. I think it would be a little bit nicer, maybe. It works this way, but so here you have it, the roll-up shade in operation. Hopefully, this was helpful for you, and you can, use, some of the mistakes I made to make your project a little bit more successful. Good luck with your